Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting for December 10th, 2024. Before we call the meeting to order, I just wanted to give recognition to town employees who've reached milestones. We have several people that have reached 5 years of service. Delise Breen, Justin DeBresser, Brad McKenzie, Coralie Peterson, Jason Weaver, Mike Ernest, the fire department, Jason Stewart from the fire department, and Tyler Borick from the fire department. Having been with the town for 10 years of service, we have Jessica Benningfield, Angela Cameron, Lily Gattensby, Kara Croche, Christina McLean, Cindy Reeves, and Kathy Smith. With 15 years of service, Sean Knowles, Karen Saunders, Billy Joe Scott, and with 20 years of service, Jeff Heindel. Thank you so much for those individuals for their service for the town, and congratulations on reaching those milestones. We'll call the regular council meeting to order at 7:01. And just to note that Councillor Sands and Councillor Coulter send their regrets this evening. Starting with the land acknowledgement. Blackfalds Town Council acknowledges that we are on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting ground, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. On to the agenda adoptions. Council had a chance to review the agenda for tonight's meeting. Any changes from administration? Anyone wish to exempt anything from the consent agenda? Councillor Schwab.
I'd like to pull out the report for council development and building monthly report.
Well, thank you for that. That was exactly what I was going to also pull out. That's some significant changes. So anything else that the council would like to pull out of the consent agenda into the regular agenda? So we put that under business since we don't have any information. So we'll put that as 6.12. Can I get a motion to adopt the regular agenda for December 10th as amended? Councillor Dennis.
I move to adopt the agenda as amended for December 10th, 2014.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Or 2014, 2024.
We're getting to the end. We'll have to get used to a whole new year soon enough.
That's right.
Okay. All in favor? And that's unanimous. And a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended. Councillor Schwab.
I'll move to adopt the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. So we have no public hearing. We do have a delegation this evening. We're joined by Sunny Gill from the Enterprise Fleet Management. Good evening, Sunny.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members, to give me an opportunity to present today the case forward for Enterprise Fleet Management and our value that we provide our government partners. I really want to thank Kim, Justin, and Ken and the team that was able to go through the process with me, identify the values we need to bring, and how we were uncovered that we have a really good reasons to partner with today and a lot of savings to provide Blackfalds. With that, so we'll talk about the agenda. I really want to today just present to you what Enterprise is all about, how we save operationally and both financially to our government partners, and what were the objectives that we were able to meet today to partner up with Blackfalds. So for fleet management, just a little introduction about myself. My name is Sunny. I've been with the company for over 10 years now. Most of our employees within fleet management are 10 plus years with expertise of running fleets ourselves in operations, and we are one of the largest fleet operators in the world. with over 2.4 million assets on the road. A lot of data we collect from it, and it helps us leverage essentially and provide savings to municipalities, government entities, and corporations. So with fleet management, these are our wheel of service, everything we offer. The reason I bring this upon here is typically when you acquire a vehicle, that's the biggest challenge that's looked upon as acquisition. But there's a lot that goes from acquisition, management, maintenance of the vehicle, fueling it, and all of the challenges, and also disposing the vehicle at the right time, and then essentially replacing it with a newer vehicle. Next slide is our current business partners. We are currently partnered with over 30 municipalities in Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. With our leverages through Canoe, RMA, and Sourcewell partnerships, we have been able to provide them a lot of savings upfront. So on the buying point of view, managing and maintaining the vehicles during the term it needs to be held, and then essentially helping in the end as well to sell these vehicles out and provide that savings and the equity back to the municipality, or as a rollover to the newer vehicle, so you have lower monthly payments each cycle time. So reasons to partner that I uncovered were financial benefits. Obviously, we need to provide savings in order to partner up, and then providing proactive fleet management, really helping downsize or upsize, right aging and right sizing the fleet to maximize maximum efficiencies, and then relieving administrative burdens. So we provide tools and technologies that help managing the fleet very effectively. And we'll kind of brush on that today on how we plan to do that. So the first reason to partner is financial benefits. So we have uncovered with our 10-year model that we're able to provide savings of over $50,000 to the municipality, and that's very conservative numbers. I say conservative because I did 15% off Black Book value of your current fleet as residuals. Typical performance of enterprise is 7% higher than Black Book value. So doing that, we are able to provide those $50,000+ savings and reducing the cycle age of fleet from 16 years to just under 4. So it'll be a lot of newer vehicles, cut the maintenance cost by half. That just proves that we are now a lot cheaper option than what currently we are doing. The second objective we had was proactive fleet management. So how we do this is we look at what to buy, essentially when to buy in times of year. So leveraging our relationships with manufacturers, dealers, finding out what the best time is to buy the vehicle and the best time to sell the vehicle. So we don't take our used vehicles or the leased vehicles from clients to just auction houses. We sell them, we hand sell the units like we sell our rental vehicles, typically generating 13% higher than your commercial residual of those fleet vehicles. We have dedicated team of 700 professionals remarketing all over North America. So we'll find the best, person to sell the truck or vehicle at the highest amount possible. Next thing is relieving the administrative burden. So I won't bore you with details of how our maintenance products work, but we have plans in place that help local businesses provide them, helping give back in terms of maintenance, fueling options, and whatever other programs that enterprise leverage to keep this process as easy as possible. So we do have customer websites that streamlines all data, your maintenance data, vehicle health, insurance information, any documentation in terms of invoicing, fuel information, and telematics to track your fleet, all in one customized software, which helps you to proactively save, have a very high level view on your fleet, and ultimately help you make the best decisions in regards to your fleet. And for enterprise, we partner up. We don't just lease vehicles and then disappear. We meet with you twice a year to strategize with moving markets, pivot any strategies needed, looking at the resale market, interest rates, newer vehicle incentives, whatever that might be, and make those changes to best, for the best use of the dollar that we get from you. And ultimately resulting in all, reasons to partner that we uncovered. Now I would leave it up to any questions you might have for me.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I think during our budget deliberations, Director DeBresser I think did a pretty good job explaining your model. I guess the only question I would have is looking at a lot of these partners you had, their counties, which clearly a vehicle in a county is going to put on significantly more kilometers than in a small municipality like Blackfalds with
Mhm.
the small footprint. So assuming that you guys adjust your, when you replace the vehicles based on a cycle that includes lower kilometers, and I wonder if that's the case. Just
That
wanna
is correct.
clarify.
So we do, every time we need to acquire vehicles, we do a right vehicle, right term analysis, which looks at, average usage, cost of acquisition, projected maintenance cost of the vehicle, and projected sale price, looking at black book value in our data. And then we are able to look at how right vehicle, what to buy, what's the best price we can get, and how long we should keep it for to have the lowest cents per kilometer, to acquire that. So essentially, meat and potatoes of our program is buying wholesale, selling retail. So we find the best time and best product to buy, and the best time and the best buyer to sell the truck to after the fact. And we have proven results with multiple government entities. And yes, they have all different kilometer ranges, anywhere from 7,000 kilometers a year all the way to 40,000 kilometers a year. So our lease structure pivots that, and we make strategies live every 6 months. We meet with you, looking at your fleet use, and if there's any, resale, selling the vehicle is a moving target. It really depends upon the vehicle condition, the market condition, and we monitor that live and provide recommendations accordingly.
Yeah, thank you. Clearly, you guys are going to be a little bit more capable of finding that sweet spot than our municipality that simply looks at, in general, it's a number of years of use there.
No, definitely.
Something to that
We
effect.
do come in every year to kind of give a report card as well, at year-over-year savings, to kind of prove our partnership, because we're looking at a long-term partnership goal here.
Great. Sounds like an efficient system. Any questions, comments? Well, thank you for your time. I know you made a trip down here from Edmonton through the weather. Thanks for doing that.
Oh, no
Safe
problems.
travels
Well,
back home.
Thank you so much for
I'm
having
assuming
me.
you have a good vehicle.
Yes,
Okay.
with winter tires.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to first item of business, 6.1, request for decision on the enterprise fleet management equity lease.
Thank you, Mayor and Councils. Yeah, so before you do have the business item of the enterprise fleet management. Yeah, as Sunny was saying, we've met 3 or 4 times over the last 4 months to work out whether this model it will work for us. And as a result, we are bringing a business item before you for approval. As mentioned, our current fleet calls for purchase of certain vehicles. We hold them for 10 to 12 years, or until such time as the repairs outweigh the vehicle's value. As mentioned, over a 10-year period, a conservative estimate of $54,000 will be saved. Some of the things that we fall short here is a dedicated fleet management. So if you recall, a few years ago, we had a mechanics position, and that mechanics position was in turn going to look after the fleet management, documentation of repairs, maintenance, and having all that for our core audit. So there's benefits of having a dedicated resource of enterprise fleet management. Through the budget discussions, we talked about this as well. We did have an approval for $175,000 for a brush truck. One thing that Enterprise does do, they've got pre-selected vendors with pre-selected pricing for outfitting of more of the vehicles that will have longer term. As mentioned in the presentation, around 3.6 years will turn over each vehicle. But however, when they need special outfitting, we will keep them for 7 to 8 years. So under the financial implications here, we have $175,000 already approved for the brush truck. We're requesting an additional $25,000 to make a total of $200,000 to roll out the enterprise for fleet management program. So the 1-ton brush truck will be included in that and outfitted within that cost. Yeah, so finance will also monitor the yearly repairs and maintenance budgets to capitalize on any saving or any potential savings that we will see. So the administration recommendation tonight is that council approve the town to enter the Enterprise Fleet Management Equity Lease Program. And with that, I'll open up for any questions. And Sonny said you'll stick around just in case there's any further questions.
Councillor Pell?
Thank you. Just one question through the chair to Director DeBresser. Do you need a separate motion regarding the additional $25,000 since we've already approved the budget?
That would be cleaner. I think if somebody's reading the minutes, definitely, and yeah, the second motion there, sorry, I've overseen that. But if there's somebody
That's
who
okay.
goes back through the minutes, yeah, definitely the extra 25,000 will help the auditors establish the 200,000.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you. No, this makes perfect sense to me. I think especially the idea that maintenance and fuel costs will be better for us in the long run with newer vehicles. I know that there's a little bit more upfront. I think probably the first go around because we're trading in some vehicles that maybe have more use than they would normally once they start cycling through. But it looks like this is going to be an efficient system, so I'm certainly in favor of that. So do we have someone that's interested in making the first motion, and then the second motion? I guess we'll wordsmith that. Councillor Pell.
Definitely, certainly. I'm prepared to move that council approve the town to enter the Enterprise Fleet Management Equity Lease Program.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Would you like to make that second motion since you had discussion?
Sure, I'm on a roll. I move that council approve an additional $25,000 into the capital budget in regards to entering the Enterprise Fleet Management Equity Lease Program.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is also passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to business item 6.2, request of a decision on the mural corridor project. EDO McGee, good evening.
Shut that one down.
You don't need your.
I'm good. Good evening, through Mayor Hoover to the council. As you know, my name is Peter McGee. I'm the Economic Development Officer for the town of Blackfalds. Here to talk to you today about what it would look like if we could attract over 100,000 new visitors to Blackfalds annually, new visitors and customers. Of course, when we're talking about visitors and customers like that, we're talking about tourism. Tourism is the purest form. Oh, my notes disappear on there, so I'm gonna go to these guys. Tourism is the purest form of economic development. People are literally making money in their communities and driving it and giving it to us in our community. Tourism is a strong tourism industry and sector also does more for the community than just economic prosperity. A strong tourism sector contributes to a good quality of life and helps retain residents, businesses, and allows for more opportunities to celebrate our culture, environment, and Blackfalds in general. Now, 100,000 new visitors. How do I plan to do it? Let me tell you. The opportunity. What is our opportunity here? I believe our biggest opportunity is the continuous flow of traffic on the QE2 every single day. It is estimated that there are approximately 40,000 vehicles driving past Blackfalds every single day. Some may argue that's even higher. For our purposes, we'll use that 40,000 number. Of those 40,000, 83% of the recreational or passenger vehicles, people who have an opportunity to choose a new route to travel. That's approximately 30,000 people or vehicles, or the same size of the community of Chestermere. And they are consistently changing or constantly changing. This is a huge opportunity for Blackfalds. Now, there we go. So what I like to use is the 10% rule. So what if with the 10% rule? I like to use the 10% when I'm making plans because I figured that if I cannot attract 10% of my target audience when I'm making a plan, then there's some holes and I need to work on my plan. I also like the 10% rule because it's very easy math and I can do it while I'm standing here talking to you. So what if we attracted 10% of the recreational vehicles per day? That would equal approximately 3,000 new vehicles driving on 2A every single day. What if that 10% of them, or of those 3,000 stopped in Blackfalds, that would be 300 cars per day. And what if those 300 cars that stopped spent just $5? That $5 would equivalent about $3,000 of extra spending per day, or over $500,000 every single year. What if there was more than one person in that vehicle? What if we did this? What do we believe would happen? Would this fill up Resolve, Boston Pizza, or Piccolo's at lunch? Would this be enough to get an extra gas station fill up, or enough to keep an extra staff member on for an afternoon rush? Would it be enough to attract a brewery, a coffee shop, inspire a local to open up a new retail store? I believe that it would. We have an existing asset that we can leverage to attract this 100,000 new visitors and customers, or the 10%. Highway 2A. Oops. The Highway 2A corridor covers about 30 to 40 kilometers, about a 45-minute drive with no traffic from Red Deer to Lacombe. It crosses 3 cities and towns, plus 2 counties. This highway corridor currently boasts several amazing tourism assets and attractions that can entice new visitors. Here are some of the examples of what we currently have available for tourism attractions. Obviously, our natural beauty, our lakes, our rivers, the canola fields, our wheat fields, Kerrywood Nature Center, Mary Cliff Stouffer Natural Nature Area, Coonan Park, and our abundance of wildlife. There's a lot of built infrastructure as well. The Lacombe Research and Development Center, the largest fishing lure, our Trans-Canada Trail, the Abbey Center and its outdoor pool, the trains going through, even public art, sculptures, and murals throughout all the communities. We have a number of great businesses, restaurants, breweries, as well as tourist attractions like Heritage Ranch and Canyon Ski Resort. There's many activities that you can do in this area as well, from mountain biking, paddling, fishing, golfing, birding, wildlife viewing, farmers markets, and community events. This is just scratching the surface, and I'm sure there's more out there if we really dive into it. Is this enough to turn our highway corridor into a thriving tourism corridor and extend stays and increase spending? You've heard me just talk about the term tourism corridor, and you may be asking what I'm talking about. Tourism corridors are a very useful tool to bring clusters of tourism assets together and package them in ways that increase the impact. The draw and the attraction of the clusters is more attractive to visitors than each individual attraction could achieve on their own. Tourism corridors have the potential to offer a range of attractions and experiences that are connected by a scenic and convenient driving route, making them popular amongst visitors who want to explore multiple destinations in a single journey, ultimately benefiting several communities along the way. Highway 2A and the numerous current and future murals can provide a perfect theme for a corridor that motivates individuals to turn off the QE2 and travel through Lacombe, Blackfalds, and Red Deer. Tourism corridors are also gaining the attention from Destinations Canada and Travel Alberta. Destinations Canada has recently launched their tourism corridor strategy, which identifies 3 tourism corridors. They will focus on. The first one is the Atlantic Canada Tourism Corridor. This corridor travels through maritime provinces, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland, and is characterized by a critical ecosystem, pristine landscapes, and areas of cultural significance, covering over 13 tourism sites and attractions. The next one is the Sustainable Journeys from Prairies to Pacific. This tourism corridor is aimed at trying to attract people off of Trans-Canada Highway and down to the southern highway of Highway 3. Highway 3 as an alternative offers scenic, less traveled, but spectacular alternatives. Along the way, guests can take part in Indigenous tourism, agritourism, outdoor recreation experiences, and learn about Western culture and heritage. The last one is the Northern Indigenous Tourism Lodge Network Corridor. While this corridor matches the concept, it's a little different in the sense of the rural communities and is geared towards moving tourists around the different remote communities in the north. Finally, Travel Alberta. So Travel Alberta is striving to double its tourism economy by 2035 by capitalizing on rural Alberta's untapped potential. They have recently launched 10 tourism development zones, TDZs. They're essentially the zones that are connected by easy and convenient driving routes. The TDZ that Blackfalds is in is Olds to Lacombe and is following along the Highway 2A. These TDZs have been launched and we anticipate to see more activity from them in the future that will benefit Blackfalds. So will this work? Here are some examples of how it's worked in other communities. The Great Allegheny Passage, or the Gap, because I don't want to say Allegheny anymore, was completed in 2010, and they conducted an economic impact report in 2021. Here are some of the findings. The route is 150 miles or 241 kilometers. The trail travels between Western Pennsylvania and Maryland. It's estimated that it receives about $19 million in tax revenue and supports almost 1,400 jobs. The total economic impact in 2019 was close to $121 million. Restaurants were the highest spending category with over 30% of the total day users spending an average of $90 per day. Now let's think back to our 10% rule, and we estimated a $5 spend to equal about $500,000. Imagine if we saw this type of spending in our community. After surveying the businesses along the Gap, over 44% of them said that they were founded specifically to serve the growth in tourism that was provided by the Gap. $80 million in initial investment to create the trail now generates over $121 million annually for all of the 5 communities in the region. The next one we have here is the Wild Atlantic Way. This is over 10 years. It's a 2,500 kilometer route that travels through 9 counties along the west coast of Ireland. In the first 5 years, they invested over 70 million euros in sustainable development. Tourists traveling the Wild Atlantic Way increased by 29% in this time, from 62 million in 2013 to over 8 million in 2023. Tourism spending increased as well by 59%, 1.9 billion in revenue in 2013 to over 3 billion in 2023. It's interesting to note that a 29% increase in visitors equal to 59% increase in spending, almost double. It didn't actually line up exactly. Over 121,000 jobs along the Wild Atlantic Way in 2023 compared to 86,000 jobs in 2013, an increase of almost 3,500 jobs per year over the 10 years. 60% increase in businesses that were participating in tourism over the 10 years, and over 400 new visitor experiences were creating, biking, hiking, kayaking, etc. Here are some other trails that you might be more familiar with. These ones are a little bit closer to home. The first one, but I also couldn't find any economic impact studies on these ones. So it's just some interesting information. The Apple Pie Trail was run by Patty Kendall, and this is what she says about it. It's hard to measure the economic impact, but we know from our trail members that they've seen a significant increase in business since they've joined the trail. She says that in the beginning, it was kind of tough to get people to realize what opportunities they were with the trail, but now with the success of so many businesses, we're not short of members or different opportunities. Some of their huge success really came out of some local and international attention. They actually had articles in the New York Times, TV shows in Japan, South Korea, and China, actually attracting that international audience. The next one we have is the Niagara Wine Route. This area boasts over 40,000 tourism jobs and 2.4 billion in annual spending, and attracts over 13 million visitors. Now, granted, there's another small attraction close by that might be affecting that as well. Some other local trails that you may be familiar with would be the Cowboy Trail, BC Hot Springs Tour, and the Powder Highway. We've talked about what we were trying to achieve, an additional 3,000 vehicles on Highway 2A per day. And we've talked about the opportunity, a small city driving past Blackfalds every single day. And we've talked about the benefits of a tourism corridor and even where a tourism corridor could be set up. And as said, tourism corridors are useful tools to bring clusters of tourism assets together and package them in ways that increase the impact. So what theme do we cluster around? I believe it's murals, and let me tell you why. Oh, shoot, there we go. Here are 2 examples of where murals have been used to boost tourism and change communities. The first one is Cuba, Missouri. Around 1984, tourism revenue in Cuba, Missouri plummeted, as did many small towns along the Mother Road due to the decommissioning of the highway and the opening of the interstate. Very similar to our situation here with the Highway QE2 just outside of town. Additionally, a sudden shutdown of 2 shoe factories, while another factory laid off half its employees. It was considered an economic perfect storm. By the end of the year, unemployment was up to 21% for a town of 2,100 people, and nearly every other retail store had closed. But by 1989, Cuba was hailed as an economic miracle. Cuba had become world famous for its murals that showcased their history and their heritage. These murals were brought forth by Viva Cuba, a community beautification organization founded in 1984. Viva Cuba set its sights higher than you would expect, namely to change and reinvent the space and the persona of the community through murals. They say that Cuba is one of the first small towns to align itself with Route 66 and get the tourist attention as a result. About 10,000 visitors come annually, a significant economic boost to a town of only 3,000 people. And businesses there are thriving. The mural-related tourism and other local initiatives have brought in considerable new tax dollars to the town's coffers, 60,000 annually in just taxes raised for tourism marketing, and have substantially lowered the local unemployment rate. Now, granted, this number's from 2000, but it dropped to 4.1 at that time. They say there, as the murals multiplied, so did the businesses along Route 66. The next one you might be a little more familiar with is Chemainus, BC. Home to over 60 murals, in Chemainus, BC, 40 new businesses opened to serve the 400 annual visitors. According to the Chemainus Chamber of Commerce, they receive 8 to 10 buses a day during the summer months to see the murals. It must be noted that with Chemainus' success, we have to talk about their location. They are situated along the Trans-Canada Highway between Nanaimo and Victoria, which has 20 to 25 vehicles on it daily, in comparison to our Highway 2, which has almost double that with 40,000 vehicles. Chemainus' claims, due to the murals, the community has now a successful dinner theater, a $4 million investment that employs 40 to 45 people and pays $35,000 in taxes per year. It's industry thickness that they talk about, enough attractions and sufficient services to become a destination. A community like Blackfalds might not have enough to achieve this thickness on its own, but regionally, I believe we do. And now I'm lost. There we go. So what do we know? We know that corridors work, and we know that they can be easily implemented at a reasonable cost for a good ROI. We know that murals attract visitors, and they can be tailored to the identity and brand of any community. We know we have a huge opportunity with a moving city driving past us every single day. So how do we do it? How do we leverage this opportunity and use our current resources and assets to the best of our ability? What I'm proposing is to partner with our neighbors, Lacombe and Red Deer, who both have extensive mural collections. Red Deer boasts over 34 professionally done murals, and Lacombe claims to be the mural capital of Alberta, with over 15 murals on a single walking tour. My proposal is to create a marketing campaign targeting these recreational vehicles on QE2 and using our existing and future mural inventory, launch the mural corridor of Western Canada, encouraging people to turn off QE2 north of Lacombe or south of Red Deer and onto Highway 2A. This campaign can be as simple as a couple of billboards at either end of the highway, or it can include influencers, top 10 articles on the best coffee shops, places to see the sunset, community Christmas lights, etc., and interactive and augmented reality mural experiences or self-guided tours. The sky is really the limit. I'll leave with a statement here from Mark Hoffman, who is a tourist operator in Chemainus. Murals on the wall signal that people inside give a damn. Towns with murals tend to be cleaner, quality of life is higher, and there's a real sense of history and community. It just says that it would be a great place to live. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Councillor Schwab?
I really want to thank you for the presentation. We haven't really heard much about tourism in the 7 years that I've been on council. And I think it's great to actually hear something about tourism because I'm sure our community could benefit from it. With the very limited amount of murals we have in our community, how would we attract more people to add murals to our community to make this work?
So in my budget for 2025, there's already some money approved for more murals to be implemented. And I'm looking at leveraging other partners as well. So I'd be looking at things like Service Credit Union and other commercial business partners to help us with this, as well as I do believe that there will be some grants coming out through Travel Alberta and other organizations like that that we'll be able to leverage. I do think that there's also an opportunity potentially to really get the community involved, to help us with some of them as well by doing some more community involved ones that might not cost as much. They might not be as professional, but they do have a lot of attraction and value to them.
And I would add to that, I do agree that I think this is also aligning with the priorities for not only Travel Alberta, but Prairies Can and their tourism growth plan. There's funding for that. And I mean, we just have to look at the high school that put in, their, along with the Historic Society. I know that one's not public facing, but there was great support for that, working with Indigenous partners to do that, which again is another aspect that that would likely be something that could be highlighted, and would also likely have other partners involved in terms of funding, because I know that in terms of Indigenous art and Indigenous culture, there's significant drive to try to bring attention to that.
100%.
And I don't know that many people are aware that that there's a very deep Métis history in our area in particular, and I think would do well to highlight that.
Yep.
In addition to the other things. So this has long been something that has been interesting for me. So I do appreciate that this was brought through the economic development committee who endorsed this. And I know I was present with that. So I know you're not giving us specifics in terms of how you would pursue this per se, but just give a little indication of what the next step would be.
So I believe my next steps is really going and starting to talk to some of the stakeholders. Obviously getting Lacombe and Red Deer on board, as well as the two counties on board, which will help boost our budget. There's going to be two parts to the budget. Obviously, there's the implementation of the actual physical murals here in town, but there's going to be the marketing campaign piece as well, which I have budgeted for as well. So that being able to get those partners together and then start to leverage what we have from there will be kind of the first step. Once we get that group together, including Red Deer Tourism as well as Lacombe Tourism, and even Cape has a tourism group now. So just trying to bring all of those together to find out who wants to work together on this, and then figure out how we do it together. I have some ideas of how I could see it going, but I can't tell you if they're the best ideas until I hear everybody else's.
Yeah, I think the key is to get some people to champion this idea, and I honestly don't think that it would be difficult to do that. So, from my perspective, this is an easy easy vote. But
Great.
I look
like
forward
those.
to the next steps, given that or based on whether or not this passes this next motion. So, Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. McGee, I just wanted to say thanks for bringing this forward. I thought you had a great presentation, and I'm looking forward to helping beautify our community a bit more. So thank you so much. I agree with Mayor Hoover. I feel it's a no-brainer vote. So as soon as we have a motion.
The paintings on the wall.
Yeah, paint's on the wall. Would you like to make the motion, or you said?
I make a motion that council endorse the Highway 2A tourism corridor and direct administration to pursue this initiative.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you for.
Great. Thank you very
Look forward
much.
to the next. Thank
good
you.
day.
Moving on to 6.3, request for decision on bylaw 1319.24, affordable housing taxation bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So before you do have the affordable housing taxation bylaw. This is the third time we're coming to council, so I won't go through the memo again. Last council meeting, we got first reading, and there was a question asked about whether all requisitions will be exempt from the affordable housing. Municipal Affairs did confirm that both the Lacombe Foundation and Alberta education taxes will be exempt, therefore saving the foundation some more money, around $13,300 a year. So 2 motions tonight, just for second and third reading.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? Seeing none. Councillor Schwab.
I'll move that council give second reading to bylaw 1319.24, affordable housing taxation bylaw as presented.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. I move the council give third reading to bylaw 1319.24, the affordable housing taxation bylaw as presented.
Thank you. Debate discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
That passes unanimously. Item 6.4, bylaw 1318.24, Schedule C of the Community Services Facility Fee Schedule.
Thank you, Worship and Council. I brought this bylaw before you at our last meeting on November 26th, where it was given first and second reading, and I believe we went through it. And if there's any further questions, I'm looking for a third reading on this bylaw.
Questions? Seeing none, Councillor Schwab.
I'll move that council give third reading to bylaw 1318.24 Schedule C Community Services Facility Fee Schedule as presented.
Thank you. Debate, discussion. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. And moving on to 6.5, a request for a decision for the Support Services Center lease rate.
Yeah, so the Sports Services Center, that's our former FCSS building, just to the south of us here. Serves as a hub for community organizations. In total, we have 8 office spaces that are available. And we have agreements with leaseholders that expire at the end of this year. Right now, they are currently charged $11 per square foot per year. And we're looking to increase that rate to $12 per square foot per year. So for an average office space, it's about 120 square feet on average. We're looking at about a $10 increase per month. So with that, I just have a motion before you, and if you have any questions.
Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Krakowicz, I'm fully in support of this. I think $12 a square foot is absolutely fair for our area. My question is, have you determined or so right now, if that building's sitting at 53% cost recovery, what will this additional dollar per square foot a year bring us up to?
It'd be minimal. It'd probably be 55%, around that range.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I know we don't typically, we try not to go to all 3 readings just because there's, not necessarily the opportunity to ask questions in between, but just want to ensure, has this been discussed and all the tenants have been made aware that this is coming to them? I know it's minimal, but just want to get a sense.
Not all the tenants have been made aware of it. I'm trying to think back when I first entered into some of these agreements with them. I think I did say along the lines there will be an increase coming, but I did try to make all the agreements expire at the same time just for this purpose, so that we can change them all at once and make it fair across the board. There were a couple that came in recently that I'd notified them about the change coming, but I can't remember if I notified everybody.
Great. Well, as I said, this is not a massive change, as Councillor Appel pointed out. This is more than reasonable in terms of space that's, I think, well maintained and very well located for the services provided. So in this case, I don't have a lot of issue with this moving to the 3rd reading, but we'll get to that point. Any other questions before we have first reading?
Sorry, it's just a motion.
Motions.
It's not a bylaw.
Right. I look at the number, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
worried about that. My apologies, thinking ahead. All right, so we do have a number of motions here, not readings. I'm looking too far ahead. Code of conduct. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry, my apologies. Go ahead.
Thank you. I move the council approve the Support Services Center lease rate of $12 per square foot per year.
All right. Thank you. Ignore everything that I just said. Any debate or discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Now, let me find where I'm supposed to be on this. Just give me a moment. Yeah.
Good evening, Council. I think this is the number of motions that Mayor Hoover was looking at here is
that was ahead. Yeah.
our Code of Conduct bylaw, which we've discussed, I think, in significant detail over the last couple of meetings. So what we're looking for here is that Council consider giving 3 readings to the bylaw 1322-24 Code of Conduct bylaw.
And I did notice another change in there, just based on, or since the last time. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Yes, I did make that one change, yes.
Any questions or comments? Yeah, I think it's very clear now. Lots of work has been put in there to clarify this. I'm very satisfied with it. Thank you. Councillor Schwab.
I'll move that council give first reading to bylaw 1322.24, the Code of Conduct bylaw as presented.
Thank you. Debate, discussion. All in favor? That's unanimous. I can make a second motion that council give second reading to bylaw 1322.24, the code of conduct bylaw as presented. Any debate or discussion on that motion? All in favor? Thank you. Councillor Pell.
As this is our last regular council meeting before the new year, and I think we should have this ready to go for all those new nominations coming in January, I would like to move the council give unanimous consent to move to the third reading of bylaw 1322.24, the code of conduct bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is unanimous, so we can go to a third reading. Councillor Dennis.
I move that council give third reading to bylaw 1322.24 code of conduct bylaws presented.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.7, request for decision on the 2025 member-at-large appointments.
So thank you. The member-at-large review panel, which consists of 3 council members, 2 council members and the mayor, had been meeting over the last number of weeks, conducting interviews for the various vacancies for member-at-large appointments to committees. We do have a schedule that is attached of recommended appointees. And we can maybe just go to that schedule there just so that council can see. We do have some of these, I think about a dozen of these are new member at large, and then we have some that are returning. So the recommendation is that council, we'll just go to that. Yeah, that council approve the 2025 member at large schedule of appointments to the various council boards, committees, and commission as outlined in the attached schedule.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Pell.
Thank you. This is really more of a comment. I would just like to say thank you. Even though as alternate, I only sat in on one of the meetings. I really liked the way it was put forward and the way it was organized. And I know that the person that I was there for, they really seemed to appreciate the interview process. And I really think this is going to help get us more committed volunteers going forward. So I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to see how this helps us out moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. And I agree with that. Councillor Dennis, Councillor Sands, and I, put in Councillor Pell being involved in the last one. It's a bit more time. And not to say that our volunteer coordinator didn't, really do a great process, but I think ultimately council making recommendations for board members having never met some of these people was a missed opportunity. I don't know that we didn't have good information, but I think the interviews in many cases were longer than scheduled because, there's so much value in meeting these members and really preparing people for these boards and committees very enthusiastically. I thought it was very much well worth the time put into it. And I fully agree with Councillor Pell that I think we're going to get more committed and more prepared board members. And I expect that our boards are going to, starting in January, are going to be hitting the ground running because of it. So I'm quite happy with that process. Even though it was a little more work than we've typically done in the past, it was worth that time. So seeing if there's no other comments, someone would like to make the motion. Councillor Schwab, I know lots of motions and very few people to make them tonight.
I'll move that council approve the 2025 members at large schedule of appointments to the various council boards, committees, and commissions as outlined in the schedule.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Moving on to 6.8, request for decision on the appointment of returning officer.
Great. So as council is aware, municipal elections are governed by the Local Authorities Election Act. The 2025 municipal general election will be held on October 20th, 2025. As a nomination period for the 2025 municipal general election will commence on January 1st, the appointment of the returning officer must must be in place to accept nominations. Administration is currently working on the nomination package and will post the notice once they are available. We will also bring forward additional reports to discuss other election considerations such as advanced voting days, special ballots, and special ballots. As with previous municipal general elections, the town will be providing election services to the Wolf Creek School Division. So under our recommendation is that we are recommending that Danielle Nealon, Executive and Legislative Coordinator, be appointed as returning officer for the 2025 municipal general election, and Darrell Lee Batelier, Finance Manager, be appointed as a substitute returning officer. We do have 40,000 allocated to the 2025 operating budget for the municipal general election. And we do have a motion there for council's consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Schwab.
I just had a question regarding the Red Deer Catholic School
Mhm.
Division. Do they do theirs at their school then, or how does that work? I can't
I'm
remember.
not sure, but I know in the past we haven't done elections for them. It's just been Wolf Creek.
Okay.
They do their own.
Okay. Thank you.
So one of my questions is just in terms of whether or not, well, okay, this election, as we know, will be significantly more work
Yes.
than past
Mhm.
elections, and I don't know, I haven't been on the administrative side of this and really haven't paid that much attention to it. Is 2 returning officers typical? Is that sufficient? Is that what larger municipalities are doing? Because I expect that there's going to be a lot more work for these 2 individuals in the
So
past.
you would only have the one returning officer, and then you kind of have so that we have a deputy that's there to kind of act in place of that returning officer to accept nominations. So that's been the same process. What we'll need to do is we'll likely have to have more counters on the day of the election, just when we're going into closing out the election and counting, because we'll be back to hand counting. So I do suspect that will take more time, possibly even at the voting station with the electors register. But those are things that we'll have a little bit more information on as we start to do the training in the new year.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess those separate nominations and the actual election itself are separate processes. But
Yeah.
again, having not wrapped my head around, the changes that have gone into this act, so want to ensure that we aren't considering more manpower for that. So that said, I'm happy with the choice here. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. So through the chair to CEO Isaac, I had a very similar comment, and it's less in regards to the returning officer and more in regards to the budget, as we realize that more staff will be required.
Mhm.
Do we have any, at this point, do we have any anticipation on what the increase of costs will be and potential timelines? As I know in the past, nominees have sat at the voting, whatever it's called, at the venue, waiting to hear results. However, if they're going to take more than an hour, I don't know that people will be willing to do that.
Oh yeah, I would say I'm not sure when the last hand count was done here and how long that took. It really depends on how many voters we have come out, and then I don't know if the province will be looking at doing any type of vote and to get the municipalities to do that like they did at the
Mhm.
last election. So until we know more of that information, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But I think it'll just be manpower. We're not going to be getting any software to update the permanent elector register.
Okay.
We'll be doing that manually. So I think what it'll be is we'll be looking at just more manpower costs for the voting, the count at the end of the night, I would say.
Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, we do have a motion to appoint the returning officer and deputy. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. I move that council appoint Danielle Nealon, Executive and Legislative Coordinator, as the returning officer, and Darrell Boulier, Finance Manager, as the Assistant Returning Officer for the 2025 municipal general election. And if Danielle Nealon becomes incapable of carrying out her duties, that Darrell Boulier be appointed to act in place of the returning officer.
Thank you. Debate or discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to 6.9, the request for decision on bylaw 1321.24, the elections bylaw.
Thank you, Council. Just one moment as this switches over. Okay, so I am here to present bylaw 1321.24, the elections bylaw. A bit of background is at the regular council meeting of November 26th, a report was brought forward of the effects of Bill 20, which resulted in some significant changes to the Local Authorities Election Act. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. We'll start over. Thank you, Council. I am here to present bylaw 1321.24, the elections bylaw. A bit of background history is at the regular council meeting of November 26, 2024, a report was brought forward. Oh, weird. Why isn't this?
We've got it.
You have it?
Well, I think we can choose it individually, but I'll give you a moment. You don't have to start over again by any means.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know what's going on.
We can blame Peter. He's done something. He's the last one to touch it. Yeah.
Why is it? Oh, okay, good. All right. Okay, so on to the background history. So a report was brought forward to the effects of Bill 20, which resulted in some significant changes to the Local Authorities Election Act. The most significant and noted changes were the removal of voting tabulators for the upcoming 2025 municipal general election, the requirement for a municipality to use permanent elector registry voting lists that's supplied through Elections Alberta, and allowing municipalities to require criminal record checks to be submitted with candidates' nomination packages. Through the report, administration requested council's direction if the town of Blackfalds should require criminal record checks with nomination packages. And if it was the decision to require them, it would have to be done by bylaw by December 31st of this year. Administration indicated that it had been monitoring how other municipalities are managing this. And while there have been some that have been implementing this new provision, there have been many more that have chosen not to. Since the report was brought before council, there have been additional expanded reasons that these municipalities have cited for not including this provision within the bylaw, and they are listed below. I will try to summarize for them. In accordance with Section 23(1) of the Local Elections Authority Act, it outlines when a candidate is disqualified and becomes ineligible to continue to be a candidate, and that is if the candidate is convicted of an offense punishable by imprisonment by 5 or more years, or is convicted under offense under Sections 123, 124, 125 of the Criminal Code of Canada, or it is in contravention of Section 147.23 of the Local Elections Authority Act, and that is in relation to contributions. In addition, when nominations are submitted, candidate is required to include a sworn or affirmed statement noting that they are eligible to run in the election. And the statement also says that it is an offense in itself to sign a false affidavit. And I just want to for the record, having a criminal record check doesn't automatically disqualify you from running from council. It's only if it falls under one of those sections of the Local Elections Authority Act. Criminal record checks are not straightforward or standardized, and they could often be ambiguous and difficult to interpret. Being the returning officer is going to open up a lot of questions, which they might not have the ability to fully interpret what the criminal record check is saying or not saying. In addition to Section 20 8.62 of the Local Authorities Election Act, when a municipality includes a criminal record check to be included in a nomination package, and it's requested by the public, it must not be withheld or redacted in any way except for the mailing address, even if it were in the opinion of the returning officer that the information would compromise the personal safety of the candidates, and this appears to contravene the VoIP Act. I'll just note a couple more. Criminal record checks are only good as the date they are received, and it could change within a few months, weeks, or even days. And manual processing that could require fingerprinting, it could take up to 120 business days. And noting the above, administration indicated that didn't see any relative value including the requirement for criminal record checks with nomination packages. But if it was the wish of council, the administration would draft a bylaw to include the requirement for candidates to provide criminal record checks with nomination packages. Following the presentation of the report, council provided direction to administration to draft a bylaw to include criminal record checks with nominations for elections. As per the direction of council to include this requirement, administration has drafted the elections bylaw before you to include that provision. Attached to this report and for council's information is a sample release of the criminal record check with the information that would be redacted and the information that would remain when requested by the public. Administration has additionally considered the implications resulting from Bill 20, the Municipal Affairs Statute Amendment Act 2024, when drafting the bylaw. In addition to the requirement for criminal record checks, other notable changes to elections bylaw include the requirement for a candidate to provide a notice of intent to run, the removal of voting tabulators, the addition of requirement of a permanent electors register, expanded use of special ballots, and rules for scrutineers. It should be noted that the province has not provided training yet to municipalities, and therefore, if the bylaw is passed, it may need to be amended when that training is provided, if there are regulations or new information that is realized. Additionally, in accordance with Section 21(1) of the Local Authorities Election Act, the bylaw will need to be passed by council prior to December 31st of this year to require criminal record checks with nominations for the 2025 municipal general election. $40,000 has been allocated in the 2025 operating budget for the 2025 municipal general election, and there may need to be additional legal advice and training for the returning officer and substitute returning officer or other deputy when the criminal record checks are requested by the public to ensure proper use and disclosure when requested. And with that, the administrative recommendation is broken into two. There is giving all three readings to the election bylaw or postponing the bylaw until after the province has provided training.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair to Ms. Nealon. Yes, thank you very much for your work on updating the elections bylaw. While we realize that there might be more information coming regarding the training, I would prefer to approve a bylaw knowing that changes might come our way as opposed to shelving it or tabling it at this point. Those would be my comments, but otherwise I didn't find any errors in the specific bylaw.
Councillor Schwab.
I agree with Councillor Pell. I think we should go forward with this, and if we can do amendments later on, at least it doesn't tie things up. And if people are nominating January 1st, everything's ready to go. So, and I still do support the criminal record check. There was a lot of people in the last election that were surprised that nobody had a criminal record check done. And I think this just shows that we're being truthful and supportive of our community when asking that the people that are nominated have a criminal record check. It does suck that vulnerable record checks aren't in there, but maybe in 4 years from now, the Elections Act will change again, and maybe that'll be another thing that gets added on. But I'm okay with what has been presented, so thank you.
You know, when this came forward to us in November, I did express some concerns, and I do want it to be clear that I voted for this to come, or this bylaw to be created. I do want it to be clear that I am concerned, and I'm not entirely in favor of the criminal record checks. Not that I'm against criminal record checks for council, but I do feel that the concerns, many of which have been added to this and have been in the, expressed by other municipalities, including legal counsel for the city of Red Deer. I find it very concerning that this seems to contravene another piece of legislation. This kind of reminds me of some of the things that were imposed, or decisions that were imposed on municipalities during COVID from the province, that I don't think that municipalities should have been making, that have come back and been an issue for the municipalities, and have been an issue for the province, and they've had to they've had legal decisions that have been quite impactful because of decisions they made that I don't think were well thought out. Just question for administration, has this, I know this was short notice or like a short amount of time, have we vetted this through legal counsel, this bylaw? So you won't have legal advice, but anecdotally, are we subject to possible legal challenges having a bylaw that potentially contravenes the FOIP Act?
I would say no, because I don't think it would have been put into legislation. I think, the municipal affairs would have run it through legal themselves when they were looking at doing the Local Authorities Election Act, the amendments. So I would say that they're, I don't believe that we would be in contravention of anything.
Okay, but we don't have legal advice on that at this point. I mean, I stand a little bit by a statement before, is that the province made a lot of decisions during COVID that they felt that they had the authority to do, and there's been court decisions since then that as it turns out, they did not, and those court cases have not all been settled. And I just find it very concerning that if this was an important issue for the province, why they just didn't mandate it themselves, instead of expecting municipalities that have much fewer resources available to them and less expertise to make these decisions. It's concerning to me. I'm concerned about the fact that people may have to wait a few months for these criminal record check, and the nominations open in just a few weeks potentially. So I have a lot of concerns about this. So I'm not in favor of this, but that said,
If I could, I just added this in just so you could see the information that would be released to the public. And as you can see, I don't actually know if any convictions, like in where the boxes are checked here, if it's just going to be a checked box. I'm not really sure. I just know that I'll just only be able to redact the information here, and everything else will remain. And so if it is incomplete, do I make the candidate complete it? Or if it does come back with a possible match, I'm just not really sure what I'm supposed to do with that information. If I just hold it on file, and when someone comes to request it, I just pass it over to them. If I'm allowed to make a copy of their criminal record check and give it to the person who requests it, if I'm allowed to email it, or if I'm just simply allowed to show it to them when they come in. I think that there is a lot of unknowns at this time. And so I just wanted to include this just because there's no real direction how to disclose this when it is requested.
thank you. Yeah, that's only one thing amongst a number of concerns that I have, but thank you for that. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. Through the chair to Ms. Nealon. Yeah, I wonder, I'm not sure if, because we're at this point saying if those requests come through, we don't know for certain that they will.
They have already.
Well, Yes, I know that one person called last week specifically to ask because it came forward now. So just in saying that, I'm wondering if those would be answers that AB munis would be able to, not AB munis, I'm sorry, municipal affairs would be able to answer when those requests do come in, and they'd be able to do, their jobs. And while I agree that they should have given those parameters and how to move forward list before they downloaded us onto us, they also gave us a pretty harsh deadline on it. And I know that really in the role of public official, there's not a lot of things about our lives that are ever redacted or not known very publicly. Where we live is, I think, one of them that's pretty obvious to a lot of community members that live here. So that being said, I understand that it might raise more questions, and I hope that municipal affairs will step to the plate if and when those questions come forward. But I am interested in seeing how this plays out.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, we have potential recommendations here for first, second reading or the recommendation to postpone. Councillor Schwab.
I'll move that council give first reading to bylaw 1321.24 elections bylaws presented.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And I am opposed. Thank you. Councillor Appel.
Thank you. I move council give second reading to bylaw 1321.24, the elections bylaw.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And we would need a unanimous consent to move to third reading. Councillor Appel.
Thank you. I move council give unanimous consent to proceed to third reading of bylaw 1321.24, the elections bylaw.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? I realized the comment of that I fully agree, a harsh timeline that's been imposed on this. So I've had to wrestle over this decision, knowing that procedurally, if this doesn't move to a third reading, then the alternative for this council would have to be a special council meeting in order to do that. I do have enough concerns with this that I'm not in favor of this at this point, especially with 4 council members out of our already reduced council. So that said, we can go to a vote. All in favor? And I am opposed. So the option is to go to a special council meeting if that's so what council so chooses. Thank you.
Sorry.
Councilor Appel.
I don't know if this is a full point of procedure. I'm sorry. I have a question. If we do require a special council meeting, do you need a motion to put that forward? Like, would you like that tonight, or would you like us to proceed with that in writing?
Yeah, that usually, what does our procedural bylaw say, Daniel?
It's usually in writing to the mayor, and then the mayor will call the special meeting.
For 48 hours. Okay, perfect. That's how we'll proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 6.10, the request for decision on standing committee of council meeting cancellation requests.
Okay, thank you again. So before you is a request to cancel the Standing Committee of Council for December the 16th. Standing Committee of the Councils usually are regular scheduled by council at the annual organizational meeting held in October, and meetings are typically scheduled on the third Monday of the month. The December Standing Committee of Council meetings often fall very close to Christmas. And with the busyness of the time of the year and a workload experienced by council administration through the budget process, it's been identified by administration that there is no pressing agenda items that are required to be brought forward prior to the end of the year. A cancellation of this meeting would allow administration more time to focus on year-end requirements and activities. As a result, administration will be formally requesting that the Standing Committee of Council meeting scheduled for December 16th be canceled.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion? Councillor Dennis?
I move that council cancel the December 16th, 2024 Standing Committee of Council meeting and direct administration to post notice of the cancellation.
Perfect.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 6.11, the request for decision on the 911 call answer service agreement.
Good evening, Your Worship, Council. Pardon? Just a minute. Yeah, okay. We're good. Bring before you today the 911 call answer service agreement. This is an agreement that's been in place for actually many years. 911 call answer service is the receiving party of 911 calls originating in the local authority, Blackfalds, and transfers these calls to the agency, service, or department identified by the local authority, Blackfalds, to provide emergency response. The City of Red Deer has an agreement with TELUS Communications Incorporated to provide E911 service to the city. City of Red Deer operates the call answer center to receive these 911 calls and originating in the city. The city is also capable of providing these services to the town of Blackfalds, which they've been doing for many years now through agreement. Previous contract was last signed in January of 2007 and currently has an auto renewal clause. Since that time, there's been technological changes in the 911 world, as you can imagine, and the agreement has been updated to reflect these changes. Current contract has offered residents of Blackfalds easy access through 911 calls. Emergency services are as required. Blackfalds Fire is made aware of 911 calls by the City of Red Deer, who answers these calls and transfer them to the appropriate agency. This service is provided through TELUS Communications Incorporated, funded through the billing of their customers. This agreement, once signed, authorizes the City of Red Deer to collect the local government authority call answer levy for provincial 911 calls. Chris Kearns, Deputy Fire Chief, and Evan Stewart, Assistant Deputy Chief from the City of Red Deer, are in attendance at tonight's meeting, along with Chief Cote, to answer any questions that Council may have in regards to the 911 call answer service agreement. Financial implications, there are none. As noted, TELUS and other phone companies collect service fees from their customers to cover the cost of this service. It's simply an updated agreement to make amendments with reference to the new technology that has occurred over the years. So the recommendation would be that Council authorize administration to renew 911 call answer services agreement, if there are not any questions.
Councillor Pill.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Morrison. I guess my only question would be, have we noticed or been made aware of any inefficiencies or issues with the current system?
None as of recent at all.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Pell.
I don't know, you may not know this, but I know there was discussions having texts for 911. Is that something that's been implemented at this point, or are you aware of it?
I'm not aware, but as noted, we do have some very educated subject matter
the
experts
brass.
with us here this evening.
Yeah.
So
You didn't come here just for that, did you?
Well,
You must have known.
Your Worship, thanks very much for having us attend tonight. Councillors, thank you so much. And to the question, text to 911, I believe was the question.
Yes.
So the technology changes we're referring to is what the industry calls next generation 911. And so it's been in the works and planning phases since probably about 2011. And the CRTC makes regulations relating to 911 services. Text to 911 is one of those next generation 911 things that's come about. So currently, TELUS and the telephone companies across Canada have upgraded their systems as per CRTC regulations, such that we can move to next generation 911. It's called the EZInet. That's a fancy word for Emergency Services Internet. So it's a specific internet service, fiber network across the country for emergency services use for 911. So part of that, it's an IP-based system, internet protocol-based system, and because of that, things like text 911, better location services, ability to use Wi-Fi enabled devices to pinpoint location and make calls, things like that are all part of next generation 911. We are planning on going on the EZInet by the end of first quarter 2025. So we have all the technology in place in our center currently. It's now just a matter of doing some testing with TELUS and our vendor that put our system in place, and then going live on the system. Of the 200 911 centers in Canada, 220, 10 911 centers are on the EZInet at this time. So interesting to note, just because we're talking about it, Strathcona County was the first in Canada, so which is very interesting. Anyway, did that answer your question, sir?
Well, yeah, it's just something that's been, we've talked about, and I think one of the questions I had, if that was the case, if there would be additional charges, that needed to be integrated into these agreements.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
There's no intent on our part to increase charges to the town for these types of services. As Mr. Morrison indicated, the funding of it comes from the fees collected by TELUS, which are on your phone bill, or Rogers, or whoever your phone vendors are, for landline services. And so those fees then get distributed to us after TELUS takes its share, and that's what funds that service. Currently, it's 32 cents, I think, per phone line. Our proposal is to increase that to 88 cents, which is in line with the cellular charges that are currently on your phone bill. So, but that recommendation will go to TELUS. So.
Great, thank you. No, I'm just happy to know that these agreements and these systems are actually keeping up with technology and people's lifestyles. That clearly calling. Generally, I don't know what stats are. Maybe you have anecdotally the numbers of how many people are calling from cell phones to 911 as opposed to landlines. It's certainly higher than it was in the past.
Definitely, and we do have those stats. Currently, it's about 90% of 911 calls are from cellular devices rather than home-based devices.
Right. So these changes are well overdue.
They're indeed welcome. Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you for that information. Seeing no other questions? We do have an administrative recommendation. Rock, paper, scissors. Councillor Pell.
Thank you. I do not have the patience for rock, paper, scissors. I would like to move that council authorize administration to renew the 911 call answer services agreement.
Thank you. Debate or discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. And then 6.12, the development report. Permit report. I don't have it in front of me. Yes, it is. Development and building monthly report for November 2024. Councillor Schwab.
Page 3 is the one I was kind of referring to in this, I think. Maybe 4. Yes. Thank you. It's great to see our number of permits are up a lot and that we have a lot of housing coming into our community. It says the number of permits are 161 for townhouses. So Blackfalds is booming again, and I haven't seen this number in a long time. So with growing commercial businesses, new schools coming into town, and now more housing, I think we're looking very healthy. And I just want to say kudos to everybody who's coming into our community and trusting in us, and thank the staff for all their hard work behind the scenes, because this is a lot of work for them too. So I just appreciate this. It's really great to see.
Thank you. Yes, and this was something that I had noted, and I'd sent something to CEO Isaac earlier just to ensure that she had, access, or seeing as we don't have anyone from planning and development, just to talk about this, because it is a huge number. And looking at this just in the last month, it's nearly as many permits or value of permits in the last month than we had at our peak in the last 3 years, just in 1 month. So it's an extraordinary number. So I guess where I wanted to pose questions to administration was how we foresee that impacting resources for the town, knowing that there's essentially 10 times the number of permits that are coming through planning and development. That's clearly going to be a huge demand on them.
Yes, thanks for that question. Based on what we're seeing with the increase in permits, it's really affecting some of the day-to-day workloads. So things like our internal ASP reviews, those types of things are taking longer. Some of the things that have come forward from council, the front parking pads, some of those things are taking significantly more time than what we had originally anticipated. So there's a lot of things that are on the work plans that are just not getting done. There is a time frame as per the MGA where permits have to be looked at and reviewed. So we do have to adhere to those timelines. And so I think that is one of the reasons why there has been a request for an additional planner for the department. So I think that, we're really seeing a bit of a crunch there for sure. And I think there would be support on our end to see an additional staff for downstairs if our budget permits once we get through our negotiations this year.
Thank you. Well, I know that there was some planning in the budget for an additional member, but again, this is really significant number increase. I know an example I'm going to use is not easily comparable, but Jasper, for example, I know Jasper is reaching out to other municipalities to get assistance from planning and development to try and help them through their huge needs. Is there any possibility that we'll need to contract any of this out? And then secondary to that is inspections. So when we have this many more buildings going up, the inspection processes, we don't want that to fall by the wayside as well. So I wonder whether or not this can be addressed through contracting.
We have talked about maybe contracting out our subdivision approvals. So that is one area that we could consider doing. We do have IGAD doing our inspections, so that is already contracted out.
Okay. Well, again, this is a big number. I'm hoping that if this gets overwhelming, that we can address this really quickly in the new year in terms of maybe an adjustment for budgeting, because I don't know the last time that we've seen, if we've ever seen this number in terms of permitting. I was blown away by the duplexes in particular here. Townhouses and duplexes, almost $28 million in permits just in multifamily homes, which I can tell you, having discussions with other elected officials, that they would love to have this in the cities, let alone in the town of Blackfalds. So we want to ensure that we're going to get this windfall in terms of affordable homes, which I think something like duplexes would fit into that more likely than single family homes, that we're able to get these things built and inspected and improved. So thank you for that. I think we'll be having more discussions about this in the new year. And there's no actions to this. I think this was just, I don't even know that.
I would recommend that you just
receive it for information. Okay. And I'll make that motion to receive this for information. All in favor? Thank you. We have no notices of motions, but we do have confidential items. So this ends the open portion of our council meeting at 8:29. We'll go on a 5-minute recess. Thank you.